following show is controversial and contains content you may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised.
98 FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
It's Thursday morning. Good morning. How are you today? I'm Adrian Kennedy, and between now and midday today on this miserable Thursday, this is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. We're going to keep you entertained and informed and hopefully get you involved in one or two debates a little bit later on. What have we got coming up? Well, in just a moment, new drink driving laws came into force a few weeks ago, but do you know how they affect you? Drinkaware.ie say that they've received a number of calls from people saying, how does this affect me? So we're going to try and answer that question for you in a couple of minutes. We're also going to be finding out about that mad crash up in Castlevania in County Monaghan and find out what was going on there. It's a bizarre kind of story. We all want equality between the sexes. So why is it then that only 1% of women ever propose? You never see a woman on bended knee. Well, we've caused a bit of debate in our office with the article that I wrote in today's Herald. If you want to have a read of it, it's on, what page is it on? Page 15, is it? Yeah. Page 15 in today's Herald. And the headline from the article that I've written today is, I'd love to see girls say I do to proposing. Have a read of it if you have a copy of the Herald. It's on page 15. We'll have a debate about that a little bit later on. We also want to find out what was the worst Christmas present you ever got. We're going to be talking about the miserable life that student nurses have to go through. I'm going to be talking to one lady who has started an online petition urging the Minister for Health, Simon Harris, to pay student nurses who are on placement. I never knew they didn't. We'll find out what that's all about a little bit later on. And, we get our teeth into this one later on. This is a headline in one of the newspapers today. In fact, it's on the front of the Irish Daily Mail. Should parents be told where predators live? A proposal to allow Gardaí alert schools and families could send sex offenders under the radar and encourage vigilantism, but we're going to be asking whether or not we should be entitled to know. I told you it's a busy show between now and midday today. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. I've kept a man in the studio with us.
Against my will.
Against his will. Stephen Cooper is here with us from 98 FM's Big Breakfast because I want to talk to you. You're our traffic guru here in 98 FM. Yeah. And you've had a busy morning.
Yeah, it's been mad. Because the show starts at 6 a.m. and the first thing we spoke about this morning was because the weather was so bad and the traffic was so bad at 6 o'clock this morning that we could predict that it was just going to be crazy, and we knew there was going to be accidents just by looking at the way people were driving this morning and the conditions of the roads as well.
So tell us about how bad things are out there this morning.
Well, there was incidences on the M50, which it's only been reopened now, northbound just at Blanchardstown, but it's backed up to Sandyford at the moment.
Oh my God.
So that's taken you over an hour to get through. It was M1 to Junction 12 Firehouse earlier on, northbound, and that was taking over an hour to get through. There was incidences on the M4, the M3. There was a car abandoned just before the M50 exit as well. Probably somebody gave up and decided they'd walk in. So because of everything happening on the M50, nobody can get on to the motorways as well. So the traffic is just then backing up. So anybody coming down the M4, it's already backed up to Maynooth, possibly as far as Kilcock now, which is a complete nightmare. And with the spot flooding as well is bad. We get lots of WhatsApps. People would send us audio WhatsApps, and here's an example of how long people were sitting in traffic just today.
By the way, I'm almost in Hoth, guys. It took 2 hours today. 2 freaking hours.
So
I've just been sent a photograph this minute of the M50, and it is literally like a car park. It's not moving.
Yeah, that's going to take a while to clear off. And as well, it's because most people don't really know how to use the motorway anyway, so they're all in the wrong lane at the same time. So getting from one place to another, people are finding it difficult, and this is where accidents happen.
I've just never understood why people, or how people can't drive when it rains or it's a bit windy.
Well, you just need to slow down. And, you know, as they always say, is like keep the distance in front of you, because your braking distance is a lot worse. And also, it's like the condition of your car and your tyres as well has a lot got to do with it as well. If you don't have, if you haven't changed your tyres in a long time, it's not going to be able to handle the roads at all this weather.
Okay, if you've been stuck for more than 2 hours, we'd love to hear from you. You can text or WhatsApp us 0877 98 98 98.
I think if somebody was stuck for 2 hours, they might be able to understand what they're saying. They're like,
I know I would be. Thanks very much, Stephen.
Can I go?
That's 98 FM, Stephen Cooper with the latest on the chronic traffic situation around the city, and it is just awful. I was kind of glad I left early today to make sure I actually got into work. Now, did you know, well, you possibly did, that a couple of weeks back, new drink driving laws were brought into force, and drinkaware.ie has received numerous questions from the public about the recent changes to the drink driving laws, and they've decided to urge motorists to take time to understand the new drink driving laws ahead of Christmas. And I'm joined on the line by Miriam Tabor, who is the communications manager at drinkaware.ie. Miriam, welcome to 98 FM.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning, Miriam. How are you?
Good. Not a bother.
Now, Miriam, you say that you have received numerous questions from the public about the new drink drive laws, which come into effect at the end of October. What sorts of questions are people asking?
So I suppose we've received these queries through our social media channel, through our phone calls from the members of the public, and really I think there's serious confusion out there, and I think there's a bit of misinformation being spread as well about what the update to the drink driving law actually means for people at a very practical level.
Okay, so tell me about the misinformation that you believe has been spread.
Yeah, so I think some of the queries that we've been getting from people was questioning, have the legal limits changed? And, our response to that is no, the legal limits haven't changed. They remain the same. But what has changed, which is crucial for people to understand because it actually affects the vast majority of drivers. So this is ordinary, fully licensed drivers. So the change really is in the penalty for driving if you're detected with lower levels of alcohol. So this is where the changes come in. So the increase here for penalties really is if you are caught detected by the guards with a blood alcohol concentration of lower levels of alcohol. So without getting too technical, that's between 50 milligrams and 80 milligrams of alcohol. You'll now receive an automatic 3-month driving ban plus a €200 fine.
Okay, now before that, you got a fine and penalty points, isn't that it? So you still, it still was an offence, you still got a penalty, but it wasn't a driving ban, it was just penalty points.
Exactly, and that's the change to remember, is it used to be a €200 fine plus 3 penalty points. So for the size of the offence, as in, we all know the devastating impact drink driving can have on our roads, really that just wasn't enough to deter people from getting behind the wheel after drinking alcohol. So that's why we've been very supportive of this. So now people who are detected with that lower level of alcohol will receive a 3-month driving ban. Okay,
so that is now an automatic thing. It's no longer a penalty points offence. It is now a 3-month driving ban. Now, one of the questions that people have been asking since the introduction of this new legislation, and it's a question many people ask, is how many drinks can I have and still be okay to drive?
This is one of the most common questions that we are asked. And, from DrinkAware's point of view, I'll just say it out front, our answer is none. Our advice very much supports official guidance from the guards, but also the Road Safety Authority, that any amount of alcohol, even just one drink, it will affect your ability to drive safely. And, I'd point out that that's not an opinion. That is scientific fact. So, the risk that we see some people take, and these are the conversations that we have with people, is, I've done it before, I've had 2 pints, and then I've got behind the wheel and I've driven home and nothing happened. So it's fine, I can do it again. And what we'd say is just because you didn't face any consequences once doesn't mean it's not going to happen again. So really, our advice would be absolutely no alcohol. And, it's really, when you think about it, how long is a piece of string? So we get asked by people a lot, but surely I can just have 1 pint or 1 glass of wine. And I mean, you know, as I say, it's all subjective to the person, to their situation, to, you know, there's just too many unknowns, you know, and what we'd say is, how much is that one drink worth to you? You know, could you live with the consequences if something were to happen on the roads as a result?
Okay, so the simple answer is that to have even one drink can put you over the limit. Absolutely.
And that's scientific fact. So that's not opinion. That is just the matter of fact there.
Okay, so in answer to the question, how many drinks can I have and still be okay to drive? The advice from drinkaware.ie, especially in the run-up to Christmas, is none. Absolutely none. Don't touch a drop.
Yes, that's it. And, you know, especially coming up to Christmas, another question that we are asked so often is about the morning after. So if somebody has been drinking the night before and then they need to drive the next morning or even the next day, it's such a common question for people to ask us about when, you know, how long will it take for the alcohol to be fully processed through my system. And, you know, again, this is all, it's really hard to work out because, you know, you don't know the situation of the person. Have they eaten, you know, are they male or female? There's so many different, again, unknowns, but the very kind of basic rule of thumb would be it takes on average 1 hour to process one standard drink. And, you know, so one standard drink is the equivalent of a pub measure of spirits or a half pint of beer. But I suppose there's nothing you can do to remove alcohol from your body any quicker. So common myths that we often hear is, but I'll have some coffee and that will get rid of the alcohol, or I'll have a shower and that will sober me up. But none of these work. You really just have to give it time the next day. I tell you one thing that will scare the living daylights out of you. Many of the pharmacies sell these one-off breath test kits, and it'll tell you the next day whether you're over. And if you're not going anywhere, it's an interesting experiment to do, because you'll be shocked if you were out for a few drinks the night before. At 12 o'clock the next day, you can still be over the limit, even though you feel fine and everything else. So that is a warning, and the guards are catching people the next day. They are. The Gardaí have really, really increased their efforts, and particularly around the morning after. I mean, 1 in 10 driving under the influence arrests actually happen between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. With a massive peak on every Sunday. So, you know, it's exactly what the behaviour of people would suggest is you go out for a few drinks on Saturday and then you get in the car on Sunday. But, you know, the guards are there and they're enforcing this law. So, again, it's really just not worth it. Okay, all right. So the message today, with the new drink drive laws, even though the penalty or the offence is still the same, the penalties are different. The advice from drinkaware.ie is just have no drink if you're driving your car, and if you're out the night before, be extra careful the day after. Yeah, that's right. And, you know, we just want this Christmas to our roads to be safe for everybody, because obviously there'll be more travelling home for Christmas, but also toing and froing between various houses and parties and things. So it's just, you know, we can all have a role to play to keep our roads safe this Christmas. Miriam Tabor, Communications Manager with drinkaware.ie. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on 98 FM. Thank you. Now, we were talking about the traffic just a moment ago, and it's bedlam around the city. Alan, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Alan? Okay, how about yourself? Good, thank you. Now, tell me about your journey today. We left Newtown Candy on 10 to 7 this morning. I'm still travelling. I'm just at the side of the airport. So it's 3 hours and 28 minutes. My God almighty. So, sorry, you left Newtown at what time? 10 to 7. 10 to 6:50? Yep. Wow. And you are just at the side of the airport now? Yeah, just at Dardistown Cemetery. I'm a delivery driver. My next drop is in the airport, and I should have been here at, 8:15. So you left work the exact same time, or left for work the exact same time as I left for work. Now, I was very lucky with the route I took into work today. I didn't come across much traffic. I was in at my normal time. So you left the same time that I did, and you haven't even arrived where you're going yet. Yeah, well, I'm on the road now since 3 o'clock this morning. And I've done all my deliveries, no problem. As soon as I hit the south side, it just went mad. And then trying to get back, as soon as I came out of Newtown and Candy onto the N11, it's just tailed back the whole way. And as I say, I'm just coming into the airport now.
And like I said, we were sent a photograph just of the M50, literally like a car park. It's such a frustrating road when things don't go properly on it. It really is.
But the big thing is, believe it or not, it's like I've been stuck in the one lane. I don't change lane. But cars leaving 40, 50 feet in front of them to the car ahead of them, and every car is doing it, and that's adding on to the tailback.
Yes,
you know
of course.
what I mean? They're just not moving with the flow of traffic.
Yeah, I can understand how frustrating that must have been for you today, Alan. I hope the day improves. I hope it's not like that again this evening.
Sure, I don't see even traffic, thank God. I finish working around 12 o'clock, so...
All right, fair play. Thanks very much indeed.
No problem. Bye.
There you go. That's Alan. What a miserable old journey that is, isn't it? Anyway, if you're stuck in traffic, there's not much. It's one of those things. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't just hop out of your car, especially if you're on the M50 and just leave it there. Now, next, you will have heard this story. This is the most bizarre story. Carnage. Street smash horror. That's the headline on the front of today's Sun newspaper. Garda tackles crazed driver. This happened up in Castleblaney in County Monaghan, and it's a story that it's a really shocking story. It all unfolded on Tuesday night. To tell me more, I'm joined by a man who's been at the scene in County Monaghan, Michael Doyle from the Sun newspaper. Michael, welcome to 98 FM.
Good morning, Adrian.
Morning, Michael. How are you?
Good.
Michael, tell me what happened here in this really sad incident that led to the death of a father of two.
Yeah, it all unfolded, as you said, on Tuesday night. It seems a man from Northern Ireland by the name of James Tomey went into the Garda station in Castleblaney at about 11:20. Now, it's still unclear for what reason he went into the station for, but he was certainly recognised by one of the members there as somebody who was wanted in connection with a number of offences down here and in Northern Ireland. He confronted him, and the man left the station, got into his Audi A6. The Garda, whose name is Michael Devlin, went out after him. They kind of struggled for a moment. He tried to take the keys out of the ignition, and in the process, Tomey drove the Audi A6 with the Garda in the passenger seat as they fought around the corner, about probably a distance of about 500 metres. And as they were struggling, the car came round, the driver's door was opened, and they lost control in the car and went straight into the back of another car. That was Stephen Marin. He was sitting in his car opposite the Chinese takeaway where he worked as a delivery driver, and he died at the scene. Now, the Audi A6, which was contained Tomey and the Garda, carried on for another few yards and went into a lamppost and came to a rest. Sorry, go on. Yeah,
I understand that this guy has been on the run for an almost identical incident.
That's only it seems to be emerging this morning. There's a similar incident that he was wanted in connection to. I think it's from a few years ago. But yeah, it's a bizarre set of circumstances. I mean, if he's somebody who was on the run or he was wanted in connection with a number of offences, we're not sure why he walked into the Garda station the other night. If he was somebody of the Garda who wanted to speak to in connection with another incident and some other offences. So it's a very strange, bizarre set of circumstances, and in the middle of it, of course, the tragic death of the father of two.
Now, back to how the Garda ended up in the car. From what you understand, there was some sort of a struggle. The Garda ended up in the passenger seat of the car, and from the videos that have circulated, you can see after the crash, the Garda literally falling out of the car and falling onto the ground.
He fell out of the car. I mean, he obviously was badly injured in the incident. As you could have imagined, he fell out. He was helped by a passerby get up. He was able to get to his feet, and he was treated in hospital for a number of injuries, including head, facial, and leg injuries. But he was discharged yesterday afternoon. So the injuries were described as minor, with non-life threatening.
Okay, now tell me what we know about this poor man, father of two, who was completely... anyone who's seen the video will see, and it kind of gets frozen before he was struck. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, God love him.
He worked as a delivery driver for Lynn's Chinese Takeaway, which is directly across the road. He was either waiting for his next job, or he was waiting to finish his shift. Somebody told me that he was due to finish at about 11:30, and then this incident all unfolded at 11:21, I think was the exact time. So he was due to go home. He was married. He had two young children. two young girls, we believe. His parents live in the locality. He had a couple of sisters, and he was very active in the local community, and he was a sacristan in the local community, in the parish. In the parish, he was involved in local GA clubs, and everybody seemed to speak very highly of him. He's probably somebody who would do anything for anybody, and a tragic loss to the Castleblayney community.
Okay, now this man, James, Tomini, has been arrested. Is it likely he'll be charged anytime soon?
I think they can hold him for 48 hours. We'll certainly, I'd imagine we'd know possibly by the end of today what the next course of action is. He's been held and questioned in Carrickmacross Garda Station, and we expect certainly an update from the Gardaí today at some point.
All right. Michael Doyle, reporter for the Sun newspaper. Thanks very much indeed for joining us on 98 FM. It is one of those really, really bizarre stories, I have to say. Anyway, thank you very much indeed, Michael. Now, here's something I want to get your opinions on, and I want you to text or WhatsApp us on 0877 98 98 98. Caused a bit of controversy in our office today with an article that I've written in today's Herald. Now, if you have a copy of the Herald, our column is on page 15 of today's Herald. And the headline for this, and every Thursday, by the way, the headline for this article is, I'd love to see girls say, I do to proposing. And here's what I want to find out. Why don't more women propose to men? Because everything lately is about equality among the sexes. We've been made more aware than ever about the need for equality between men and women, and rightly so. From job prospects to wages and rights and so on. All a good thing. Equality is important. So why is there no equality when it comes to marriage proposals? Did you know, I'm shocked by this, did you know that only 1% of the 14,000 couples recently engaged, only 1% was the woman proposing to the man? So 99% of proposals are a man asking a woman to marry her, and even getting down on bended knees, so he's nearly begging her. Where's the equality there? I'd love to hear from you on this, on 6797 981. Would you, as a woman, ever propose to a man? I asked around the office yesterday and I was told absolutely not. And then we asked the question, but you believe in equality, don't you? Oh, yes, of course I do. And why no equality here? I want to find out from you on 6797 981. As a woman, would you ever propose to a man? And if not, why not? And as a man, would you like a woman to propose to you? Because I have a feeling that men wouldn't. Call me right now on 6797 981. You can also text or WhatsApp the programme on 0877 98 98 98. Love to hear from you on this. We'll take a break. We're back in just a moment.
98 FM's Dublin Talks.
With Des Kelly Interiors. New wood flooring fitted in time for Christmas. DesKelly.ie.
98 FM.
So everything today is about equality. And that's grand. Equality in wages, equality in everything and anything between the sexes. So why is it, and I want to find out what the problem is here, why is it that women never propose to men? Well, okay, out of 14,000 engagements in Ireland, 1% were women proposing to men. And I want to find out why that is. Are you a woman who has ever proposed to a man? Are you part of that 1%? If you are, I'd love to hear from you. How would you feel as a guy if a woman proposed to you? Because the word that comes in is desperate. I mean, somebody texted in a second ago, this is a ridiculous topic. It's just the way it is. But why is it the way it is? It used to be the way it is that women would stay at home and look after the house while the man went out to work. And obviously that's not the case anymore. So why have we got this old tradition that just seems to linger on and on and on about men proposing to a woman? And if you think about it, really, it's actually a little bit demeaning because he has to get down on his knee, so he's nearly begging her. Call me right now on 6797 981. I'd love to hear from you on this and find out why it's still a thing that men propose to women. And it seems that not only do women like it, men wouldn't like the opposite. Men wouldn't like a woman to propose. Call me right now on 6797981. You can text or WhatsApp the programme on 0877 98 98 98. I mean, one of the first texts we got in says, only men should propose, women should never propose. Why? Let me know why. I'm trying to get my head around this one. Mary, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Mary?
Morning, Adrian. Fine, thank you.
Good morning. How are you?
Great, not a bother.
Now, Mary, why is it always men that do the proposing?
Well, I don't know. I think, okay, you talk about it being an old thing and about doing, but women love to be romanced, and that's always been the case.
Right.
But at the same time, I think men feel if a woman was proposing, it depends on the couple as well. But also, I think they feel they lose control. You know, this man.
So what? A man who is proposed to.
I'm not saying he's taking control over the woman. It's the situation, if you know what I mean.
But okay, for example, one person said to me yesterday that only a desperate woman would ever propose. In other words, she thinks she's going to lose him, so she'd only ever propose to him to keep him. That she has to be desperate in order to propose. What do you say to that?
You know, you get a fella that sort of is quite happy in his situation and does not feel he needs to move any further.
Yeah.
You know, and he's quite happy like that, but she's not. So she's sort of edging it on that little bit to where she wants to get it to.
But is that not a kind of a little sign of desperation, really? No, honestly, that's an honest question.
No, are we not all desperate at some time?
Well, I suppose we are. You see, I'm trying to find out why. Firstly, women don't do it, but men wouldn't like it either. Men don't like to be proposed to. I know we have this traditional thing of the 29th of February every 4 years is the day for women to propose, but even at that, very few do it.
No, I think they like to have control of their own situations, of making their own decisions. And they feel maybe if the woman does it, she has taken that from him, where he likes to make his own decision. Okay,
and that's all grand, but one of the things that I mentioned is that, all the talk in the last couple of years where it comes to wages, where it comes to everything and anything in life, is all about equality between the sexes. And we all agree with that, and we should all be equal and everything else. So why is it not 50-50? Why do 50% of women not propose?
I can't answer that for you now. I really can't. I really can't. I'm stuck now on that one.
It just doesn't make sense. If we're going to have equality, we have to have full equality, and that should mean a woman getting down on bended knee.
Yeah.
And
maybe some of them have. My fella didn't get down on his knee to me.
Oh, did he not?
No, he did not.
Oh, what did he do? Just said,
I
"Here,
don't
do it."
even remember. We just sort of moved on from one situation to the next one, and it just came naturally. We booked the hotel, we booked the church, and
did he even give you a ring?
Oh yes,
oh right, okay,
a lovely ring, yes.
So what? He just arrived home one day and said, "There you go."
No, we talked about it. We actually talked about it together, and we went in and we looked at rings, and we picked a ring, and we went in. I remember going in on Christmas Eve to collect it, and. We were engaged for 2.5 years, and then we got married.
And then you got married. Very nice. Okay.
Yes.
Let me read out some of your messages on this. I'm trying to find out how people feel about this and whether or not this is a tradition that we're always going to keep, that we're never going to get rid of, equality or no equality. I would propose, says this woman, but my fella doesn't want to get married, so there's absolutely no point. But also, these women, this is from a woman, by the way, these women that want equality don't want to pay for the ring. They want equality when it suits them, and that's a fact, says that message. Where am I going now? Let me go to Colette. You're on 98 FM. Hi, Colette.
Yeah.
Colette, you would never propose.
No, I'd never in my life propose.
Why?
It's a man's place. No.
But we live in a world of equality.
Well, that's
what we're all being told.
Well, there's certain things women can't do that men can do. No.
Good God! And this is a woman saying this. If a man said there's certain things women can't do, there'd be murder. But I'm glad you said it. What do you mean? There's certain things women can't do that men can do?
What? Going out fighting the wars, going out. There's a lot of things like carrying heavy blocks, building. There's a lot of things women can't do that men can only do. I'm just one of those old-fashioned.
I'm glad you said all this, not me. That's the main thing.
Well,
but, okay, Colette.
I don't care.
Colette, what is wrong if a woman is in a relationship with a guy and everything's going swimmingly? What would be wrong in her saying to him, "Hello, my darling, would you like to get married?"
Yeah, what the fucker told that now?
Oh,
sorry.
Mind the language. Good God.
Sorry.
Relax there.
No.
What if he said no?
Yeah, what if he said no?
Yeah, but sure, isn't that the risk a man takes when he asks?
Well, that's a privilege.
Oh, that's your privilege. You see, until we get rid of this old-fashioned thing of men doing the proposing, we'll never have full equality.
No, I'm just old-fashioned. I was just brought up, like the man takes care of the women, and that's it. That was just the way it was instilled into me by my parents.
Oh, right, okay. Stay there for a second, Colette.
I never.
And if a woman does propose, somebody texted in a second ago, only a desperate woman will ever propose. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that, yeah.
So she has to be desperate to ask...
Be desperate if she wants a man to marry her. I wouldn't be that desperate to have to get a man to marry me. Have to ask a man to marry me. If the man wants to marry you, he would have asked you.
But what... you see, this is the thing that's wrecking my head. Why should he have to do the asking?
Because you're a man.
It appears that this is one area of equality that's never going to be equal. It's always going to be down to the man to do the proposing. Kevin, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Kevin?
I'm good, Adrian. How are you?
Kevin, what do you make of this?
You know what? It's something I've never thought about. And
yeah.
It's kind of like, it's the man who has to ask out the first date, right? Men are terrible at picking up signals, but most of us are anyway. And it's like women don't ask for the majority, like the 1% that you mentioned. Where's you ever like a woman asking a guy out? But now maybe things are changing a bit.
No, it does happen a bit more than it ever used
a bit
to.
More, but it's dragging its heels along that line. Right, the man has to think about the contemplation of rejection of a proposal, but. It's like if you're in a relationship, so say 2-3 years, say 3 years, we'll say 3 years for example, okay? And you kind of you're still hanging around, things are going good. You know the signals are there. You know neither one is going to jump over the bridge, or do you know what I mean? You're going to have that kind of conversation about the future, right? So if you have that conversation about the future between two adults, right? There's nothing to stop the woman asking him, but yes. It's left to him to ask her.
Do you ever see a day, Kevin, and this is really the question that I'm asking, we talk about equality and eventually, women will get paid the same amount as men for the same jobs and will be equal in every way, which is the way it should be. Do you ever see a day where 50% of engagements are the woman doing the proposing?
Oh God, nothing the next generation or generation after. No. Yeah. Because it comes down to this. Women nowadays want to be strong and independent, but also want to be treated like a princess. Hence the engagement, the whole lot. As the father's hand in marriage. I know that's.
But no, that's kind of a thing of the past. Yeah.
But it's taken like no, I can't see it happening in the next couple of generations. To be honest.
Okay, let me read out this message. Adrian, I can't ring in because I'm in work and my partner listens to your show. I'm with my boyfriend 9 years now. I plan to ask him to marry me on the 29th of February. I don't see why women think a woman shouldn't propose. It's ridiculous. Now, what I would say to that person who sent that message in, firstly, the next 29th of February isn't until the year after next. In 2020. So you're going to wait until February 2020. But secondly, if you want to do it, why are you waiting until that day? Why are you waiting until the 29th of February 2020? Why not do it tomorrow? But you won't, because there's just this tradition. James.
Yeah.
Why will you never marry your girlfriend?
Because she just wants me to spend 20 grand on a party for her and her mate. That's all it is.
That's all it is.
10 grand on the dress, $3,000.
Jesus,
on the
that's
cake.
some
Are you
dress.
mental?
So, okay, so you're never going to propose to her, are you not?
No, I'm not saying I wouldn't, but the whole wedding thing, big party, like, go away, get married, come back married, have a little party for her and her mates. Grand, I'll do that.
Right, but if she wants the big wedding and the big dress and the 20 or 30 grand expense, good luck to her.
Yeah, all the quality and everything, let her pay for it, I'll get me too.
And come here, how would you feel, James, if, let's say over Christmas she got down on bended knee and asked you to marry her?
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Oh, have you not?
No, equality and all that, you know.
Okay, so you wouldn't have a problem with that. But you would turn around and say, yes, but you pay for your own gear.
That's it. Off you go.
God, you're
that's not coming out of my bank account.
You're the last of the big romantics.
Yeah. Oh, no. Equality. I'm not having that, like.
Stay there for a second. God, we've opened up a can of worms here. Aidan, you're on Dublin's 98 FM. How are you, Aidan?
Morning, Adrian.
Now, good morning, Aidan. How are you?
Not bad at all, pal.
Aidan, how do you feel about women proposing to men?
I have absolutely no issues with women proposing to men. It was more your first call around the top of wound me up with. I mean, this idea that there's things that men can do that women can't do. I mean, how long have people been fighting against that kind of that perception? Like,
that was Colette who was saying that, and like I said, you heard me saying, I'm glad she said that and not me.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, don't get me wrong, I proposed to my girlfriend, but it wasn't a matter of tradition. It was just I felt it was time, so I betrayed her. Like, you know.
But why didn't she feel it was time?
Well, you'd have to ask her. Do you know what I mean? This is just how I felt at the time. I asked them. Clearly, she was happy enough to go along with it. You know what I mean? Someone has to do it first. But it wasn't a matter of it was my responsibility. She felt that we should get married beforehand. You know what I mean? I just chose the time, and that's just the way it worked out. But it wasn't. But like, she's under no like. She's under no illusion that it's my job to do that. You know what I mean? That's just the way it worked out for us. To think that there's still things that women can't do today that men can do.
Okay, but stay there for 1 second, because I did say that only 1% of engagements are the woman proposing to the man. Sharon, you were that soldier. You proposed to your partner.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, September this year.
And what made you do it?
I just think nowadays it just doesn't have to be the woman to propose, the man to propose all the time, that women can do it. And I wanted to do it, and I wanted to marry him, so...
And that's brilliant. And this is the point that I've been trying to make today, that if we want equality, it should be equal in all ways. How did he react? Because the reason I say that is because some of the texts that we got in were people saying, you have to be desperate to do that.
No, you don't have to be desperate. And as a matter of fact, it's like when I told the rest of the male friends that I know, and they were saying, fair play, and I hope that my girl does it. That's not always down to the woman, the man to do it. Sorry.
And how did he react? Was he delighted?
He's delighted. He was a bit shocked at first, I think. But yeah, he's delighted. He is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. When's the big day then?
Yeah. We haven't sorted out the big day yet. I think we're still getting over that, so we're going to try that now next year. But yeah, he loved it. That was different. Yeah, he loved it.
Right, now you'll have to, Sharon, if you going with going against tradition, you'll have to let him organise the whole wedding then.
I think so. And he can pay for the whole lot as well.
Good to talk to you, Sharon. Well done. Thanks very much indeed. Thanks. She's one of the 1% of women who ever propose. You're listening to 98 FM's Dublin Talks. This is Adrian Kennedy. Now, come here. After the break, just very quickly, I want to talk to you about the worst Christmas present you ever got. The reason I'm mentioning this is an article in today's Star, and it lists the worst Christmas presents ever received by people. What was yours? Text or WhatsApp me right now on 0877 98 98 98. You should see some of the things. Somebody gifted their partner toilet roll with the person's name printed on each sheet. What was the worst Christmas present you ever got? Text or WhatsApp me now on 0877 98 98 98.
98 FM's Dublin Talks.
With Des Kelly Interiors. Delivering your new bed in time for Christmas. DesKelly.ie.
98 FM.
I love the piece in the Star today listing the worst Christmas gifts ever. And some of the things on this list. 6 live chickens. Another Christmas gift was a turnip and also a dead plant and then toilet paper, as I said, with the lucky recipient's name printed on every sheet. They're just some of the things listed on the worst presents ever. Here's another one. A Manchester United jersey. Now, that's fine, you'd think, but being given to a Liverpool fan. He got this from his granny, and his granny got it wrong. I love it. What is the worst Christmas present you ever got? Text or WhatsApp me right now, 0877 98 98 98. 0877 98 98 98. JP, you're on 98 FM. How are you, JP?
Pal, sorry.
JP, well, it's not so much a present you've got, but a present you've been asked to get.
Yeah, my mother asked me there about 2 weeks ago to get her a steam mop for Christmas.
A steam mop?
A steam mop, yeah.
Now, I know what a steam mop is. We actually have one at home, and they're great old yolks. They have a cloth on them, and you just hoosh it around the floor, and there's really hot water coming out of it, and it cleanses the floor and everything else. Now, if you were to have just bought that for your mother, she'd probably be disgusted, but she's asked for it.
No, she actually wouldn't. She doesn't ask for much. She actually wouldn't care. If that's what she wants, that's what she wants. But she's been told to do one. She's got no chance.
Oh, right. So what are you going to get her then?
I'm not saying just in case of this. I'm not getting them already.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'll get her for now in January. But she's not getting it actually as a Christmas present. There's no chance.
And is the present that you've got her, will she like it more than the steam mop?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
And to be honest, even if she didn't, she still wouldn't get the steam mop.
You see, I don't know how I'd react if somebody asked me to buy them a steam mop as a Christmas present.
No. I laugh. So there was nothing else I could do, but yeah.
Okay, but if Mammy's listening, Mammy, you're not getting the steam mop, but the present that I have got you is better.
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
Brilliant, JP. Thanks very much indeed. Olivia, you're on 98 FM. Hi, Olivia.
Hi, how are you?
Tell me what your daddy bought your mammy.
Oh, I was about 10 at the time, so it was many years ago. We'd been out shopping and she had seen an electric tin opener and mentioned that this was a great thing, so he decided, I'll go out and buy an electrical tin opener, and wrapped it up for her for Christmas. And a matching handheld blender.
And a matching one, no less.
Yeah, and she almost hit him with them on Christmas morning.
But she said it.
Oh, she didn't. She mentioned, she just, apparently, now, I can't tell, like, I was obviously 10 at the time, but she was like, I only mentioned that that'd be handy in the kitchen, and he took it as, oh, let's get that for you for Christmas.
So, she gave a hint that, aren't they great looking yolks, these electric tin openers, but your dad took that as a hint for a Christmas present.
Yeah. Bless him. It was a very quiet dinner that day. It almost got thrown at him.
Oh, I love it. Men are so stupid, aren't we? We're just ticks, we are. All right, well done, Olivia. Thanks very much indeed. Text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. What is the worst Christmas present you ever got? Here, get a load of this. I got a present of a ring box. And you'd think, as per our conversation a while ago, I got a ring box. But inside it was my partner's passport photograph. So a ring box with a little photograph of himself inside. How lovely. Where am I going now? Nigel, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Nigel?
How's it going, Adrian?
Nigel, what's the worst Christmas present you ever got?
I got a used dartboard back in the early 80s. There was 6 of us, and times were hard. And I looked at the dartboard that morning, and my mom says, no, it's top of the range, and they're even Santa played with it for most of the night. I thought I actually had a special dartboard.
A used dartboard?
A used dartboard.
I actually remember as a kid, I hope my mother's not listening, I actually remember as a kid getting a second-hand bike for Christmas. And it was a racer bike, but it was purple. And I always hated that bike. I hope you're not listening, Mammy. I always hated the bike. It was second-hand and it was purple.
I thought I was on to the best present ever because the big man was playing with it. So I thought,
brilliant.
how foolish they are.
I love it.
But at the time.
All right, fair play. I got a spanner as a Christmas present. I got a block of knives, says somebody else. And my fiancé at the time bought me a remote control car. I'm a tech person, but I'm not a child. All I could do was smile and say, thank you. And then one last one. My mother, we read that out already. My mother wants me to get a steam mop. All right, so I love it. Thanks very much indeed. You're listening to 98 FM's Dublin Talks. On the way in just a moment, we're going to be hearing about an online petition that has been set up to get wages for trainee nurses. Live and exclusive to Dublin's 98 FM, Monday through Friday between 10 and midday. This is Adrian Kennedy. You're with 98 FM's Dublin Talks. And Trish is here with Thursday's top headlines.
Thanks, Adrian. The Road Safety Authority says Conor McGregor's driving ban shows that no matter how famous you are, you have to obey the rules of the road. The former UFC champion was banned for driving for 6 months for speeding on the N7 in County Kildare. He pleaded guilty to doing 154 kilometres an hour in a 100-kilometre zone at Naas District Court yesterday. It could soon be easier for Irish people to live and work in America. Politicians voted to extend the E3 visa scheme to Irish citizens last night. It's currently only available to Australians. The bill will now have to be approved by the Senate. Log cabins could disturb the neighbours and pose a health risk and health and fire safety risk. That's according to the Irish Planning Association, which says we must use common sense when it comes to planning. People Before Profit TD John Lyons wants to make it easier for people to provide accommodation for relatives in cabins at the back of their homes due to the housing crisis. And tickets for Electric Picnic go on sale on Monday. The organisers say it's the last batch to go on sale and the last chance to buy tickets at the current VAT rate. And now you're up to date on 98.
98 FM's Dublin Talks. Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
It's Thursday morning. I hope everything is good in your world on this miserable Thursday. I'm Adrian Kennedy and this is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. I believe that it's not going to be that miserable this afternoon. I notice some blue in the sky above our building here in Dublin too. So apparently it's going to get much nicer again during the afternoon, which is great. That's all good news. Anyway, hope that puts a smile on your face. Next on the programme, a student nurse has taken to social media to pen an open letter to the Minister for Health, Simon Harris, on behalf of the Student Nurses of Ireland. This particular student nurse is a lady called Jess, and she joins me on the line. Jess, welcome to 98 FM.
Hi, how are you?
Jess, let me just read the first line of your letter. It says,
go ahead.
As a student nurse, we will work a total of 1,645 hours without pay from first to fourth year. When we commence our internship in January of our fourth year in college, we are paid minimum wage. Let me ask you firstly, Jess, why you decided to become a nurse before I find out why you decided to write this letter.
I wanted to be a nurse since my fourth year in secondary school. Before that, I wanted to be a paramedic, and I just always wanted to do something in healthcare. Like I want to help people, and I absolutely love nursing. Don't get me wrong, but nobody realizes the amount of hours that we have to work and what we have to do just to get through the course and actually graduate. And I think it's about time someone actually said something about that.
Okay, so take me through what year are you in? Where are you in your studying?
I'm in second year at the moment in DCU.
In DCU, okay, so second year in DCU.
Yeah.
So how does it work? Because people may not realise how this whole thing works. How does it work when you are a student nurse and you're basically getting work experience?
Basically, we do 12 and 13-hour shifts, and really we're supposed to be supervised in everything we do, and we're supposed to be taught how to do things, but really a lot of the time we are left to our own devices and given a list of jobs to do throughout the day, like wash a certain amount of patients, record all these blood pressures, temperatures, the list goes on really. And
okay, so in first, second, and third year, you do essentially placements with hospitals. And how many days a week do you work?
In first and second year, you work 4 days. So the hours will be 1 12-hour shift, 2 10-hour shifts, and then a 6-hour shift. And then from third year onwards, you do 3 days a week. So there'll be 2 13-hour shifts and 1 12-hour shift.
Okay, and for your first 3 years, working the sorts of hours that you work, you get paid absolutely nothing?
Yeah, and the same for half of the year in fourth year.
Okay, you get paid absolutely nothing for working 12, 13-hour days, 2 or 3 days a week?
Yeah, literally nothing. We get a travel allowance, and that is €20 a week to help us get in and out to the hospital. And the reason why it's €20 is because that's the cap on the leap cards for Dublin bus.
Right. Okay, so €20 a week is all you get to get that sort of work out of you, 12 to 13 hours.
Yeah.
Now, what do you say to people who will argue that, you're doing a lot of work, you're not getting paid for it, but you are getting invaluable work experience? So, for example, when I was a young fella, I wanted to work in radio, but nobody would take me on for work experience, so I ended up having to work for free just to get that experience. So what do you say to people who will argue that you're getting invaluable work experience that will stand to you forevermore?
Because a lot of the time we aren't really getting that good experience. We're doing all the hard jobs where a lot of time we're not learning. It's rare that we'd actually get a nurse that would come up to us and say, oh, let me show you this, that or the other. You might be able to do it yourself. So most of the time we're not really, we're not getting that learning experience. We're just working. We're literally working those days. We're not.
But is that not experience in itself?
It is experience, but it's just, I think it's ridiculous when a lot of the time students are working 40 hours a week, and then on top of that, we're working another 24 hours in our own part-time jobs.
Because, of course, with the work that you're doing in the hospitals, you're not getting paid, and in order to put food on the table, you have to go off and get another part-time job.
Yeah, exactly. There's girls in my course that have children. They barely get to see their kids and they're paying out money for childminders, creches. They're hardly ever getting to see their kids, and they're still they don't have an income unless they have to work extra hours during the placement.
So do you feel that as a student nurse, when you're on placement, as you said, working 12, 13 hours a day, 13-hour days at times, do you feel you're treated like a dog's body? Do you feel that you're just being given the menial work to do? Or are you not learning as you go along? Even though it might be tough.
Yeah, it's a bit of both, really. Sometimes, you come across people that would, give you the horrible jobs. You're ending up doing horrible stuff during the day. But there are some lovely nurses that they'd show you how to do stuff. They'd teach you. But, you're still on your feet the 12 and 13 hours. You're still working. A lot of people think we're just standing around observing, but we're not. We're physically working the whole 12 and 13 hours. We don't get our lunch breaks don't count in our hours, so that's why we work 13 hours, because of the hour is for our lunch. So really, we're only working 12 hours.
Okay, so one of the things you say, this is an open letter to the Minister for Health, Simon Harris, that you put on social media. You also have a petition online, and I'm interested to see that over 5,000 people have signed your petition so far, which means a lot of people are supporting you. The final paragraph of your letter to the Minister is, student nurses are extremely overworked, underappreciated, and we need support. Ireland's student nurses have had enough, and we will not stop until we are heard. In what way do you want to be heard?
Just for people to acknowledge what we actually do and understand that we're severely overworked. All of us nearly have part-time jobs. We're working the 40 hours a week in the hospital, as well as other jobs. I did mention on the letter as well about sick days. We're not allowed to have sick days. Any days we do call in sick, those days have to be made up in the summer. And if we miss out on a certain amount of days, we have to do a whole placement in the summer. So that's a lot of students' summer is gone as well. So we don't really get time off. Other than,
Okay, so you're in second year, so you're doing this a year and a half now.
Yeah.
Listening to you after a year and a half, it's just become a bit much, has it?
Like
in other words, what I'm getting at is, why did you decide to pen this letter to the minister as opposed to any other student nurse in the past?
What started it was that DCU were holding a Student Teachers Appreciation Day, and with that they were campaigning for student teachers to be paid during their placements. And then that kind of got me thinking, how come student teachers can campaign for this but nurses aren't? So that kind of kick-started it. I said it to a lot of people in my classmates, they agreed. And then that kind of kick-started the petition, and then I decided to write the letter because, honestly, a lot of people don't realise what the work that we do and, like, the pressure on us.
Now, I have to be honest, until I saw your letter, I didn't realise, and I'm sure an awful lot of our listeners didn't realise, that, some of the people that you might see in a hospital setting, you might be aware that they're trainees, but they're actually working very hard, very long hours for nothing.
Yeah, and even some of the patients I've encountered have said to me, I don't know what people are complaining about with the HSE, the service is great, like the staffing levels are great, but half of the staff are students and aren't being paid. And I think there is pressure on us to cover when the wards are short-staffed, because then we're helping out on sections, we're covering the patients on other sides of the ward, like, etc.,
What would you like? What would it be a nice reply from the minister?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. Just something small put towards it, like every other college course that has the likes of apprenticeships, like engineering, electricians. They all get paid. They get paid about €250 a week for the work that they do. But student nurses and all healthcare workers, physiotherapists, students, social workers, students, we all get nothing. Not a penny, the travel allowance.
Okay, so you'd like at least even a token gesture, and the €20 for your travel, it doesn't really cut the mustard, because that's literally for your travel.
Yeah, and even so with the travel, it doesn't, €20 is not going to get you far.
If you could give Minister Simon Harris one message, if he's listening right now, I know he's a regular listener to our show, what would you say to him?
I would remind him that someday he's going to be the patient in the hospital, and then there's going to be nurses and student nurses looking after him as well. And I think only then he'll realise the work that nurses do, not just student nurses as well, because I don't know what he's doing, but he's just ignoring the healthcare, the workers on the front line of it all.
What do you say then to a message that we just got in a second ago, and it says, Adrian, what about the taxpayer paying for their training and after 4 years they just leave the country?
Well, I don't understand what people expect us to do. We come out of this 4 years training not being paid a penny. Teachers come out of college with a salary of 36 grand, whereas nurses come out with 28 grand. And we're working in those kind of conditions where we're under pressure constantly. We've heavy workloads. We've no help. We're doing everything ourselves. So why would we stay in the country, No, nobody would.
Okay, and what do you say then to other messages that we've gotten saying, you kind of knew what you were getting into in the first place when you signed up for it?
Yeah, I agree, and I do. I love the course, don't get me wrong, but it's not fair. Students pay $3 grand a year to attend the course, and we're basically paying to work for the HSE as well. We're paying our way into the hospitals, we're paying for our own cars, our own fuel, our own lunches, everything. We're paying to work for them, really, And it's experience, and I get that, but it's a lot of
the point I was making, and there isn't really a comparison, but the point that I was making was, when I was younger, the only way I could get experience in radio, which is what I really wanted to do, was to work for free for a couple of years. And that's how I learned everything that I now know. Do you know what I mean? No, I wasn't working the sort of hours you're talking about, but I still work for free just to get that experience.
Yeah, no, I understand that. It's just the the workload, the demands, and the pressure that's put on us when we're only students, I think it's just a bit too much.
Okay, let me read a couple of messages in support of
Yes,
you. One from John says, imagine telling all the apprentices in this country that they wouldn't get paid even their measly amount of wages. There would be absolute murder. And in fact, Tom, that is the point that you're making about apprentices, that we should at least be paying our trainee nurses an apprentice wage, if nothing else.
Absolutely, Adrian. It is disgraceful, and I didn't know, like a lot of people, I'd say, didn't know that they don't get anything, you know. And I used that analogy in the text, saying that my son is an apprentice and he gets paid, you know. So,
and I'm sure it's not an awful lot, but it's the principle, isn't it?
It is, exactly. And he struggles, but he gets a bit of overtime, and so brings it up a bit. But, like, she's an apprentice nurse.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Job seekers allowance. Even if she got job seekers allowance, like she's gone off there to do part-time work and paying taxes, you know, and yet she's working to work for nothing, if you know what I mean.
And I have to say, Jess, and this has been borne out by your petition online, a lot of people are actually supporting it, and a lot of people didn't realise that when you're in that hospital setting, even as a trainee, you get diddly for it. You get absolutely nothing, and end up, in a lot of cases, doing work that... Well, okay. Sorry, this message from Liz. I want to get your response to this. Sorry, thank you very much indeed, Tom. So that girl is saying that all over our hospitals, there are unqualified student nurses left to their own devices with no supervision with patients. Is that concerning for anyone else, she says? Most people who do get work experience don't get paid. It's at the company's discretion. Now, that would be the case, Jess, that... You know, a lot of people on other courses in DCU who might go on placement with various companies tend not to get paid. But just back to our first point, which was, are you saying that all over our hospitals there are unqualified student nurses left to their own devices with no supervision?
We haven't graduated yet, but that doesn't mean we're not qualified. Like, we're trained, we know how to do all of the stuff that we're doing, and anything that we don't know how to do, we get the nurse to do that. Like, it's not... The point that, was it Liz made, it sounds as if, you know, there's not children, young adults running around the hospital doing whatever they like. That's not the case. We know what we're doing. We're trained in what we're doing, but a lot of the stuff we don't know yet. Then we're going to the staff nurses, and then they're being put pressure on to do those stuff that we can't as well.
Okay, and here's another message from Sean, and Sean says, why did this girl get into nursing if she hates it that much? This goes deeper than her working hours. I hope she realises that the hours don't get better when she qualifies. Another person basically saying she knew what it entailed when she signed up.
I never once said that I hated it. I absolutely love it. I do love it, but it's just... And the reason why no one realises how hard we work and that we work for free is because none of us complain about it. Like, we all love what we do, but it's a huge struggle for many of us, and a lot of people have dropped out. So that's why I've decided to do this. I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it for every other student in college. I've gotten messages from numerous people, you know, young girls, telling me how that they've dropped out a few years ago and that they're glad they did it, and with all the workload that we have, you know.
Okay, here's another message. Guys, I'm a second year student in DCU. Oh, she's probably in your year, actually, Jess. I'm a mother of 3 kids. We get nothing for the work that we do. We have no social time or proper family time. Us students and nurses before us have endured the same thing, but we love what we do and we want to be appreciated for it. And that's really the point that you're making.
Yeah, exactly. We just want to see a change. You know, like, it's in this day and age with every other student, like, as you said, the apprenticeships, etc., like, they're all getting paid. Why aren't student nurses getting paid? You know, we're working just as hard.
Okay, and one last call on this. Jason, you're disgusted to hear the amount of hours that our student nurses are working for nothing.
Absolutely. It's pure and simple exploitation. Remember years ago when the nurses used to go on strike for better pay and stuff like that? So now the government has obviously decided, well, what we'll do is, instead of getting more nurses, we'll put trainee nurses in and not pay them squat, and let them, give the nurses a little bit of a break, let them do all the work. And that's their answer to it. That was the government's answer for it. What do we expect from, and I am going to bring politics into it, I'm sorry, but Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, we've had them since the beginning of this day, and that's how they treat our nurses. Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely disgusting. If they're in there working for nothing, they should be at least be able to set their breaks and have their breaks included in that day. And some of the comments coming in about, this is what they signed up for, blah, blah, blah. I mean, an apprentice plumber would get about €8 an hour. They should at least get an apprentice rate. And not be told, you're working 13 hours a day, but we're not paying you for it.
What about the criticism then that if we pump extra money into their training, half of them are just going to leave the country anyway?
But you know what? I wouldn't blame them the way the country is treating them. If we treated them properly and paid them properly and gave them a bit of dignity and allowed them to stay in the country, it's bad. It's mismanagement. That's all it is from the HSE. It's mismanagement.
All right, Jess, just a matter of interest. Thank you, Jason. Just a matter of interest, Jess. What is your plan after you qualify?
Well, I would hope to work here for about a year and then move off, just to get experience for that year and then move away. Because honestly, there's no life here for student nurses or nurses in general. There isn't.
Okay. I'd be very interested to see if Minister Simon Harris, and if you're listening, Minister, you're very active on Twitter, so have a look at Jess's message. He's been tagged by us in the letter, so I've no doubt if he hasn't seen it already, he will definitely see it. And your one message to the Minister is?
Just to put yourself in our position and remember that one day you will be a patient in the hospital, just as the same as your family, the ones you love. Just remember that we will be caring for you.
All right, and just one last message of support, Jess. I'm also a second-year nursing student in DCU, and I just want to say fair play, Jess, you're doing brilliant, and we're all 100% with you, helping to save lives and getting nothing in return. It affects our health, and we don't even have time to look after ourselves. So there you go. Jess, if anybody wanted to sign your petition, where will they find it?
It's around Facebook, it's on Instagram, it's on Twitter. If you just look around, search my name, Jessica Collins, hopefully you should find it.
All right, very good. Jess, thanks very much indeed for joining us on 98 FM.
Thank you.
And once again, her name is Jessica Collins. If you want to sign that petition, there's a lot of interest in that actually, and a lot of people didn't. I have to be honest, I didn't realise either that this was such an issue. Another message says, I'm a second-year student, DCU student, who works 35 hours a week of placement and work on a Saturday and Sunday to be able to pay for myself to do placement. I want to be a nurse. I want to help people, and I want the support to do that. Our work in hospital is vital for caring for the patients. We have huge responsibility to take on, and I accept it, but working to pay for placement is not ideal for my physical and mental health. And one last one, there's qualified nurses telling student nurses on placement they should drop out because the condition the hospitals are in and the pay is so bad. All right, thank you very much indeed, Jess, for highlighting that for us. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. I'm Adrian Kennedy. We're here until midday today. Now, next on the programme, I have a simple question for you. And in fact, this simple question is the headline in the Irish Daily Mail today. And it reads quite simply, should parents be told where predators live? That's the headline in this article in the Irish Daily Mail today. And it's a yes-no answer, but it is kind of split opinion. It's all to do with the story in the news today saying that proposals have been made to tell schools and locals the names and addresses of high-risk sex offenders. Some TDs and experts have warned that the idea will backfire and that it will drive sex offenders underground, which could be even more dangerous and could also lead to vigilante type behaviour if people know where they are. The information would only be disclosed if the sex offender would likely not be assaulted, intimidated, threatened, or have his or her property damaged, and it must also not cause public disorder. Here's the thing, though. I believe it probably would cause public disorder if we were all told where sex offenders are living. But the question that I'm asking you is, should parents be told where predators live? Call me right now on 6797 981.
98 FM's Dublin Talks.
With Des Kelly Interiors. New wood flooring fitted in time for Christmas. DesKelly.ie.
98 FM.
We're asking a simple question, and that simple question is, should parents be told where predators live? It's a fairly simple question, in fact, and it comes on the back of a debate that is currently being had in the House of the Oireachtas over whether or not we should have a right to know if a predator, a sex offender, is living near us or around us. Now, what is proposed at this moment is that individuals and perhaps schools will be given the names and addresses of high-risk sex offenders on condition that person isn't intimidated, assaulted, threatened, or have his or her property damaged. And it must not cause public order, or public disorder, should I say. Well, here's a great example of how residents feel they have a right to know. No sooner did we mention this story on the programme earlier on than we were contacted by a load of people from the Dublin 7 area. This refers to the story of a guy called Abdur Rashid. This is a guy who was released from prison last week after only a couple of days, but he has refused to apologise to the 6-year-old girl that he sexually assaulted. He walked free from prison last weekend, just 4 days after he was given a lengthy jail stretch. He was released because he had already done time in prison. Speaking to the Sunday World as he left Midlands Prison, he refused to apologise to the girl he had been teaching at a mosque in the Greater Dublin area. He said, "I've done nothing wrong. I didn't do it." Reminded that he was leaving prison after serving a sentence for the very crime he's now denying, the 50-year-old shook his head and he said, asked whether he would like to acknowledge his crime, he said, "I cannot remember." Asked if there was anything he would like to say to the girl or her family, he said, "Sorry, no, I am not sexual assault. I didn't do it. Thank you, sir." Now, Rashid was convicted in January at Dublin Circuit Criminal Court of sexual assault at the mosque in December 2015. He denied the charge. The court was told that when the girl, a 6-year-old by the way, when the girl was picked up from the mosque by her mother, the girl said Rashid, originally from Bangladesh, had touched her genital area. When the mother confronted him, he said he had been teaching the girl wudu, which is an Islamic ritual procedure for washing parts of the body. Now, the married father told Gardaí that he had held the girl in his lap and kissed her like he would kiss his own daughter. He denied kissing her with his tongue and denied sexually molesting her. He claimed because her reading performance was good, he lifted her up to kiss her, but she slipped in his hands and he ended up holding her by the thighs. The court was told that the girl had nightmares about Rashid taking her away and was afraid to go to school after the assault. The judge said in court that he had displayed an unhealthy interest in the girl and was guilty of gross exploitation of the innocence of a very young child. A number of people have been in contact with us when we merely mentioned, should you be entitled to know whether a sex offender is living near you. A number of people from the Dublin 7 area, and I'm not going to be any more specific than that. I am not going to give out this man's address because I don't want to do what the legislators fear may happen, and that's to create a witch hunt. Sorry, Katie, who did you want me to go to first? Let's go to Emma first. Emma, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Emma?
Hi, Adrian.
Emma, because I don't want to create public hysteria, I don't want you to name the street that this man is living on, okay? Suffice to say, it's in the Dublin 7 area.
Yeah.
This guy, Abdur Rashid, was released from prison last week and is now living right beside you.
Right beside me, Adrian. Right beside me, like...
How do you know for certain that it's him?
I seen him yesterday. Basically, when I read the newspaper, none of us in the area knew, right? I'm on a residents association, so nobody knew in the area, basically. And I seen a post shared on Facebook. I went into the post because it said Dublin 7 area. It named the street he was on, and I said, that's my street. So straight away, onto the Residents Association, I said, there's a paedophile living in the area. The head of the Residents Association phoned me straight away. I sent her on the article. She says, I know him. She told me his address, right? At the time, I had to go out. I had to collect my daughter, right? Now, Adrian, my daughter has autism. She doesn't understand stranger danger, and she's a flight risk, okay? So she plays in the square on what his house looks onto. If he went near her, she couldn't even tell me, Adrian. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, she wouldn't be able to communicate it to you.
So anyway, cut a long story short, my landlord lives right at the back of my house. We're all kind of facing onto a square, you know, and my landlord was standing there. I went over to the landlord and he was standing outside his house on the square. I said, is that him there? He said, yeah, I'm ringing his landlord now. I'm going to find out what the situation is. So anyway, his landlord can't kick him out because according to the law, he's done his time, yeah? Now...
And sorry, Emma, that is a fact. Whether you might like it or not, that is a fact. That he
I
has,
know, but
that he has done his
paedophile
time.
living on the square, Adrian, like where all the kids play. We live in the city centre. There's one designated area there for the kids to play, and there's a paedophile facing. He lives on top of it. He looks out his window where all the kids are. A paedophile, like convicted paedophile. He's diagnosed schizophrenia as well, so there's a high chance of him reoffending. He won't even acknowledge that he's done it. I done nothing wrong. Touching the girl by the tie, she's having nightmares. He lives next door to a little girl and boy. He's like a fully fledged convicted paedophile.
Now, one of his defences in court was that he did nothing wrong, that he had been teaching the girl wudu, which is an Islamic ritual procedure for washing parts of the body. And I've been reading up on wudu. I don't know if you've done that yourself. And it is a thing. Now, I don't know if it involves a man.
And when is it appropriate for a strange man to teach a daughter? I'm sure the mother could do that.
That's exactly the point, that it doesn't involve...
I read up on this, and that child and mother stood against him in court.
Yes, they did. Yes, in fact, so much so that the judge actually commended the girl and her mother for their courage in giving the evidence.
For a child to go and stand against a dirty paedophile man, and he is saying, no, nothing wrong. And he's moved back in.
As a matter of interest, Emma, had he been living there before he was arrested or before he was jailed?
Allegedly, yes.
Okay, so he just went back home then?
Yeah, he just went back home. I don't know what kind of sick individual is fucking Mrs.
Mind the language.
I'm sorry, but I got on to Tussla this morning as well and said, you still know, I don't know if you still know what the procedures here is, but there's a paedophile living with a child, like... I'm going to let everybody know. I got banned off Facebook and all.
Sorry, say that again. Living with a child?
Yeah, his kids are there.
Oh, sorry. Right, okay, sorry. Yes, he is a father, so he's entitled to live with his children, Emma. I mean, whether you like this or not, the fact of the matter is that this man has done his time.
Here, hold on. Paedophilia is a sickness, Adrian. You don't just get reformed. He didn't acknowledge that he done it and what he done is wrong. He's not better, like. No,
he's using that defence that he'd been teaching her an Islamic ritual and nothing more, nothing less.
Like his daughter.
Let me ask you, Emma, what are you... This conversation today is about whether or not residents have a right to know that somebody with a sexual conviction is living near them. In your case, you happen to know anyhow. What do you want to see being done?
We didn't know. We
but you
found
do
out
now.
Because nobody let all of us know that there was that the local paedophile moved into the corner. Nobody let us know that.
What do you want to see being done?
I want him, to be honest with you, I'd like to see him hung, drawn and quartered.
Okay, now to go back to the conversation about why this mightn't be a good idea to let people know is exactly that. I want him hung, drawn and quartered. What will that achieve? You see, the worry is that if we know, and I know you happen to know, that a convicted offender is living near you, but if we all get told, these people will just be moved on, will be harassed out of their houses and end up living underground. Do you see that risk?
like, right here, and I'm not trying to play the racist card here, but he's not even Irish, like.
Well, he actually is. He actually has Irish citizenship, so therefore he is Irish.
Yeah, revoke that, because he's actually like, Adrian, we could go into where he's from, do something ridiculous and get the death penalty.
No, I get that. I understand all of that.
He does a few days, like, and now he's free to paedophile around the neighbourhood. Like.
Where do you want to see this guy go?
I don't know. Home. Back to Bangladesh with him.
All right,
I'd like to see him go into a shallow grave, if that's the truth. Like,
you see, this is one of the reasons that this law is being debated about whether or not we have a right to know if somebody like this is living in the area, because it's. I think people just can't control their emotions and would literally harass or intimidate or whatever. And this is one of the things in this new law, is that the information would only be disclosed if the person was not likely to be assaulted, intimidated, threatened, or have his or her property damaged, and must not cause public disorder. I worry, Emma, that you're going to literally get this guy out of where he's living.
I'm getting him out, Adrian. That's my motive, like.
Okay, stay there for 1 second, Emma. 6797 981 is our telephone number. You can text or WhatsApp the programme, 0877 98 98 98. Can I just point out to a number of you, this guy's originally from Bangladesh, yeah? But a number of you are saying, why can't he be deported? He can't be deported because he is an Irish citizen. So what, we deport him to Ireland? So that ship has sailed. He is an Irish citizen. So that's why he can't just simply be deported. I have a lot more residents from that same area. And by the way, I'm deliberately not telling you the specific area that we're talking about here. Suffice to say, it's in the Dublin 7 area. But I'm not telling you the street that this man is living on. Quite simply because of the fear that is being debated in the Dáil at the moment over this. That it will lead to mob mentality. It would lead to people daubing graffiti on houses, smashing windows, getting the guy out. Beth and Chelsea, I will take your calls straight after the break. Stay there.
98 FM's Dublin Talks.
With Des Kelly Interiors. Delivering your new bed in time for Christmas. DesKelly.ie.
98 FM.
We're in the middle of a conversation all to do with this statement. Should parents be told where predators live? And no sooner did we mention this earlier on in the programme than our switch was flooded with people from the Dublin 7 area contacting us about a guy called Abdur Rashid, who was released from prison, from the Midlands prison the other day. He refused to apologise to the girl that he'd been teaching at a mosque in the Greater Dublin area. He was reminded, leaving prison after serving a sentence for the crime, that, well, basically he's just denying it. He's saying it didn't happen and it was all just a ritual kind of thing. Residents from this particular road in Dublin 7, and I'm deliberately not naming it. Beth is next. Beth, you are also living right beside this guy, Abdur Rashid.
Yeah, right next door to him, Adrian.
And what are you worried about, Beth? Might seem like an obvious question, but it's a deliberate question.
Well, like Emma said, we live on a square where the kids play. Now, we've been letting our kids, like mine and Emma's kids, had water fights and everything out on that square during the summer. And we've been letting our kids out there, not right next door.
Okay.
You know what I mean, Adrian?
Okay, I assume, Beth, and you can stand to be corrected here, I assume that this man would never have an opportunity to get next nigh or near your children.
Well, like, you wouldn't know. It'd take 2 seconds to grab one of them. Like, that's all it'd take. And from his upstairs windows, he can see straight in to my back garden and my kitchen window. So it's not even just a case of touching them, it's watching them as well.
Okay, so and how does that make you feel?
Disgusted, absolutely disgusted. I know myself and Emma and a few of us won't stop until he's gone out with that.
Okay, do you understand, Beth, why I'm not allowing any of you to tell me the exact street that this guy lives on? Do you understand why there is a risk of us doing that and a mob mentality driving this guy out of there?
But I can understand not saying it on the radio, but I'd be all for running them out. Because why should any of us have to worry about living in our own homes or moving house or anything else when there's a paedophile next door?
If you were to run him out, and I'm not condoning that at all, okay? I'm not defending this guy in any way, but if you were to run him out, where does he go then?
I don't care where he goes, into the middle of Ireland somewhere where there's not a lot of people, where he can't harm people, or into a bleeding psychiatric unit is where he should be. But
the reality of it is, Beth, there are people everywhere. If you were to drive him out of your area, the chances are this guy would go underground and nobody would know anything about him. At least where you are now, you know he's there and you can be wary of him.
Yeah, but we know he's there, and we're all living afraid that he's going to do something. And my kid's school is right around the corner.
Sorry, Beth, is that not all about you protecting your children and making sure that there isn't an opportunity for him to come next nigh or near them?
Like, there's older kids out who aren't watched all the time by their parents. You know what I mean? You can't watch kids 24/7.
I mean, you say older children, what are you talking about?
Like 9 or 10. Some of the kids do be out, and we can't be watching them all the time.
I know there are people saying right now, well, a 9 or 10-year-old shouldn't be out doing their own thing and not observed, and being even at any vague risk of being, approached by this man. In other words, parents need to be more vigilant.
Yeah, parents need to be more vigilant, but at the same time, we should have been warned. We were not warned about this man living next door.
But my understanding is, Beth, that he lived there before he went to jail.
Yeah, and we know nothing of that. Like, we've lived there nearly 4 years next door to them.
But sure, nobody knows
They don't mingle, they don't interact, we know nothing about them.
Yeah, but Beth, that's nothing unusual in Dublin now. Sure, half the people listening to this show don't know their neighbours. Do you know what I mean? It's not like it was 20 or 30 years ago. People just don't know their neighbours anymore.
Well, like I said, Adrian, that may be the case, but we're not going to stop till he's out of that house, because he goes between that house and another house a few doors down, which actually has a girl around the age of 5 or 6 living in it, and his house next door also has kids living in it. So why are them kids allowed to be in them houses with him in them? Now, I don't know if they're all the one family or what's going on there, but...
Okay, stay there for 1 second, Beth. 6797 981 is our telephone number. Eddie, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Eddie?
Morning, Adrian. You well?
Eddie, you believe that if the general public was told that an offender is living near them, there would be mayhem?
Absolute mayhem. I mean, ask that lady Beth there, right? She's saying, I don't care where he goes as long as it's on my doorstep. But how would she feel if she said Middle Ireland? If she drove him out there to somewhere else where he wasn't known and molested another child, how would she feel about that?
Well, Beth,
to be honest, I think that people should always be told where they are, regardless of where they go. And no matter where they go, they should be run out of it.
They have to live somewhere. I'm not defending them, but they have to live somewhere.
And by the way, can I just let it be known, I'm not in any way defending this guy either. People listening to this show are hearing what they want to hear. I did not in any way defend that guy. I'm merely stating that this fella's done his time. He was living there before. He just went back home again. That's not in any way defending him. But the point being, Eddie, you believe that if the community knew, he would just be driven from there and driven to somewhere else, and eventually nobody would know who he is or where he is.
Adrian, you've just been saying it there, the amount of people that are already paying for blood, ringing in and texting in saying what's his address. They just batter him, and then they'd probably get locked up, and then he'd be going somewhere else where he isn't known, and he'd be free to do it again.
Beth, do you understand that he would be driven to somewhere that he isn't known and could offend again?
Yeah, but come here, how would you feel if you had a paedophile living right next door to two of your kids?
I'd be honest.
Looking out on where your kids play.
I wouldn't like it. But unfortunately, I put up with it for the sake of the greater good. You know what I mean?
Okay, stay there for a second.
Eddie, but I'm not putting up with it.
Okay, but and you, listening to what you're saying, Beth, you don't care if other people have to put up with it, as long as he's not living near you.
Listen, they should be monitored. I don't know.
They are monitored.
He could do anything, but
Beth,
I haven't seen a guard in sight around the place.
Hang on, if somebody is on the sex offenders register, they are monitored.
Yeah, but they should be watched, Adrian. There's not a guard around the place, around our area.
Do you think we can afford 24/7 surveillance on every single sex offender in Ireland?
Yeah, that's what it takes. But you're forgetting that this is one that is likely to reoffend and would not take responsibility for what he did.
No, accept that. Okay. Trish, you're on 98 FM. Hiya, Trish.
Hiya, Adrian.
Now, Trish, what do you want to say?
I totally agree with Beth. I don't know what that guy is on. I mean, we are too lenient on paedophiles in this country. He shouldn't be allowed anywhere near kids. He should be kept locked up because paedophiles are likely to reoffend. The statistics say that. We have so many repeat offenders, they get too light of a sentence. They shouldn't be allowed on the street. They should just be locked up and that be done with them.
But, Trish, that's not what happens. We don't lock them away. We don't throw away the key. We don't have the death penalty. We don't castrate them. That's just our law as it is.
And that's why we have such a bad problem with paedophiles. We have paedophiles coming from other countries to offend here because what they practically get is a slap on the wrist. A child who's been abused or anyways raped or anything, any sexual assault, will have that with them for the rest of their lives.
I agree with you 100%.
These scumbags can go out after 5.5 years, 6 years, sometimes only 2 years, and they can live their lives. Yeah, fair enough, they're watched and they're put on a sex offenders list, but they can still live their lives. That's totally
okay.
unfair.
See, here's in fact, even the Rape Crisis Centre are a little bit concerned about these possible laws that would enable us to know who's living near us. You get messages like this: burn the sick, you know what's out, murder them. Sure, the prison services in Ireland, you get a slap on the wrist. This is the whole thing that I worry would happen, Trish, if we were all told who was living here, there and everywhere.
I do completely understand that, and I understand the whole mob aspect of things. But as a parent myself, I would not let any of my daughters out to go running around knowing there's a paedophile in the area. And as a parent's job is to protect their kids, we should be given the information that there's even a paedophile within the area. No one needs to know the exact address, but we should be...
Okay, so in the general area. So,
yeah.
Okay, but I'm just saying that this guy, Abdur Rashid, is living in the Dublin 7 area. The Dublin 7 area is actually huge. Do you want to narrow it down to a closer area?
No, I'm not saying that they have to do that, but people in the Dublin 7 area should be aware that if anybody in that area is going to let their kids out, that there is a paedophile in that area, to be more cautious. Okay,
stay there for a second, and maybe that is the way around it, not giving his precise address. Chelsea, you put up a post warning people about this man, Abdur Rashid. Your sister lives around the corner from him, and she's terrified.
Yeah, she is indeed. She has 2 small kids. One of them is 4, and he's actually in the creche a few metres away from where this man lives.
Right, I assume this man isn't walking in and out of the creche.
No, but he's around the area, you know what I mean? There's 4 creches, 6 schools, and he's patrolling the area, and he's a paedophile.
He's patrolling the area?
He's patrolling the area. He was seen walking around the area, seen walking up.
But hang on for 1 second. Relax there, Chelsea. Everyone's entitled to walk.
Yeah, but
was he hiding behind bushes?
Around schools, around this area. I mean, this man shouldn't be allowed around this area. Shouldn't be.
And where should he be? Where should he be?
He should be dropped off somewhere. He should be in prison. That's where he should be.
But he has been released.
He should be dropped off in the middle of nowhere. There was a girl that robbed a package of biscuits, and she got a longer sentence than him.
And I don't disagree with you about the sentence being disgraceful. I think it is disgraceful. But the fact of the matter is that everybody eventually gets released from prison.
But I mean, he wasn't made an example of, Adrian. You know what I mean? For the thing that he done, like, people like him should be made an example of. And he's going to reoffend again, and he's going to do it again. And he's walking around our area where the kids are and everything, and he shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Okay, let me read out just one message before we wrap this up. He's a pedo FFS. He abuses kids, and you're making excuses for this animal. Get a grip. Did he think about that poor child when he abused her? He deserves hell brought upon him. And 98 FM want to be ashamed protecting this animal, and other people urging us to give out his address. I will not be doing that. If you're in that immediate area, you know who he is and where he is. You don't need me to tell you. And by me adding to it, by me giving out his address on the radio, is just going to lead to a mob mentality. And I'm sorry for your troubles. Look, Beth and Chelsea, who live near there, thank you for talking to us. We're going to keep on top of this story and see how it develops. And in no way am I condoning this guy. In no way am I protecting him. I just will not give out his address on the radio because I don't want to be responsible for anything that might happen. You're listening to 98 FM's Dublin Talks. That's it from us for today. If you want to get in contact with us, our email address is dublintalks@98fm.com. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Barry Dunn is on the way in just a moment. He's got some great music in the next hour like these.
98 FM's Dublin Talks.
With Des Kelly Interiors. Delivering your new mattress in time for Christmas. DesKelly.ie.
98 FM.